Guys, welcome to part 2. I think we're going to end up doing the controller today. The reason I want to get this out of the way is basically nothing ever lines up with these controllers. They're all different brands, and for whatever reason they like to use different connectors. A few things I've learned in the past is never to cut these connectors here. I always cut them over here, because down the road, if this controller I put in blows up, he can order an original controller and just plug it right in, right? Versus having to solder the wires right off the wiring harness, and every time you solder to these wires, you're going to make it shorter and shorter, right? So that's not good. If you cut it here and solder to it, you get something to work with, and you can unplug everything if you have to. So here's the one that he's getting, and it will fit on there. I don't know why they made it so large. Like, it's not a totally powerful controller. It's only a 1,000-watt controller. I have a 2,500 watt that's even smaller than this, so I'm not too sure why they made it so big, but it'll just fit. Nothing will line up, so I'm gonna end up cutting the power wires here. The throttle wires don't line up, so they'll be cut here, and then we'll trace them back to the throttle. I think the alarms are good, and the hulls are good, and as well as the phase wires. So the only thing we're really going to have to solder is the throttle and the power wires. So let's get at it. Yeah, so you can't really tie the two reds together. Like, you got, this is your high amp, high voltage plus going into the controller, and then you got your low voltage going to your ignition. So that's your ignition wire there. You can't tie those together like you normally would do, because in the wiring harness they're separate as well. So we're just cut them there and leave a little bit of extra on there so I have something to work with. Same thing with your throttle. So there's your power and throttle ready to go. Your alarm on plugs. Hopefully we don't have to cut wires with that one too, but we'll see how that works out, because I don't know how the alarm's going to be with 60 volts. There's our hulls, and then we'll have to get a screwdriver for that. Just give me a minute. Yeah, I got one of these on my bike. I love these little terminals. They're great for drawing a lot of amps. Versus using, I've used Andersons and a bunch of other connectors, and they don't come close to what these things can do. But these aren't easy to find. It's nicely bolted. Pliers. Just use pliers to loosen them up, but usually I use a socket set for this. This is good because this way I don't have to cut the phase wires on the controller. Everything lines up here, like it's blue, it's green, and it's yellow, so we'll try and keep the same pattern on the other controller, if it works or not. Okay, so we're pretty much done there, and then the green's off. And that's it for the controller there. So we'll get a socket set and remove that, and install the other one. Okay, it's on. I'm just getting the wiring prepped for soldering. I don't have the proper colors for the shrink tubing, so I'm just using red and yellow. Once these are soldered up and ready to go, then we'll get it to high and low and the phase wires and everything else. But as you can see, it fit. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. Once we get these soldered up, I'm just waiting for the soldering iron to warm up. We're just about set to start soldering them up. Had a little bit of a disaster and knocked over my liquid flux, what a mess that made. I like to make sure my connections are solid. There's a proper amount of solder. That's perfect. Sorry. Give that a minute to cool off, and then we'll shrink it. Clean that off. And just slip a shrink tube over it. And move on to the next. Unshrink this a little bit. And then we'll just push it together. So what I'm doing is I'm opening up the wiring a little bit, and then when I push the two together, it makes it one solid. It actually works pretty good. There. Keep that one away for now. A bit of flux on that. If we can try not to drop it this time. This liquid flux, when it gets on the floor, oh my god, it's so hard to clean. What a mess. Okay. It's old stinky. Yeah, so I don't think we'll have to do too much soldering here. Just the two main power leads, power good lead, and the throttle wires. The rest should be pretty much plug and play. The only thing is you don't have a 3-speed switch on the bike. One thing I do want to get a hold of off of you, if we can work out a deal, I would like to get a hold of the old one because it's only rated for 27 amps. And I'm looking for something like that. What I'll do is I will add a switch and leave it dangling underneath the fender where you can just reach up and click it, and that'll be your 3-speed. It's good for like if you're going long distance, you can keep it on low speed, save a little bit on the battery. So that's, I'll add a few things like that. Plus your brakes need adjusting, and I'll lube up a few parts on the bike that are dried up. I'll basically service the bike for you for that controller. That's what you paid me only covers the mods, so, and the bike basically needs it because, well, I can tell you right now, the brake handles should not be touching the grips. You should be able to squeeze the brakes, but the end of the brake handle should not touch the grips. That's their weight of adjustment. If you had to panic stop, you probably would get in a collision because you don't have enough brake to even pull a skid. They're pretty soft. So I'm going to work on those. Hopefully you don't need new pads. Okay, that's the power wires are done. We'll just grab my trusty heat gun. Okay, let's move on. I figured I'd take you along to show you what it's like when you have to configure the throttle. This is the throttle here. You basically could take this off and trace it right down to in here. And it's red, green, and black. As you can see, it's going into the wiring harness as pink, blue stripe, and black. And then you go to the back, and we got that right here. That's pink, blue stripe and black, and there's an extra green there, which I'm not sure. I think it's the ground. And then we'll just basically go off the where I cut off the controller. So leave the purple out, and you just have the gray, black, and red. And then we find it on the new controller, and then we just splice into it. And where is it? That's Halls. High side, low side, speed, control. Now see, I don't know if that's for the 3-speed switch or if it's throttle. Just give me a minute, let me have a look at this. Okay, I figured it out. This one says speed control. Yeah, speed control. And this one says high and low. So that's your 3-speed right there. This is your throttle. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut that. But I don't have another connector for that. So off with its head. We'll leave the label on it. We'll just move it up, or we'll just rip it off. Who cares? Usually I like to leave the label on, but I guess I pulled it off. Okay, so what's black here? Black is, well, let's start from going back to the front of the bike and have a quick look. Black is black. Okay, so we're good there. So we go here. Black is black. Okay, we're good. Okay, one thing I have to do is get some shrink tubing for that. Okay, well, power wires and throttle wires are finished. And as you can see, they all have their connectors still on it, so we're not messing around with the wiring harness. The alarm. There's the power for the alarm. Make sure they line up. Black, black, and red is red. Plugs right in. This is the one that kind of alarms me a little bit. I might have to change the pins on it. The alarm plug, when you line it up, not all the colors are the same. Like you got, let's see, you got green on green. No, wait, no. Green and blue are reversed, but orange is the same. So I might have to switch it around. Or no, I don't know if it's going to cook that alarm or not. I'm a little bit alarmed about it. Alright, anyway, let's do the phases, and we can always change these when we run a test. We'll do exactly what we saw before, where all the colors were the same. We can always change everything out later on. Won't tighten this up very much because we have to run a test first. Might have to change things around. People usually like to go with the same colors on the phase wires, but the problem is if it's a different controller, different company, their phase could be totally different than the phase of the old controller. So when I go to fire it up, it could go in reverse. I like plugging in the let's see, the hulls. The black and the red always line up, obviously. But if you look on this side, we're doing pretty good here as well. Blue, blue, green, green, and yellow, yellow. So they're all lining up there. But like I said, there could be a small change. We'll leave it like that. when I'm all done, one thing I do, you see how much I hate these connectors? Look at this. Look at that. That's a brand new controller, and the pins don't even stay in the socket. That is just a pisser. There, see, now it's sticking in. You gotta double check that. Usually when I'm done, what I like to do is I like to put a little bit of hot glue all in there so they don't pop out. Same within there, it keeps the water out too, and a little bit around on the edges. Like I said, this one we're gonna leave out because the wires are different. That's about it basically. Let's see, high level something, signal brake, low speed, high speed, that's where the switch is going on. Low level brake signal, I don't know what the hell that is. Self-learning, and then this gray one here I think was going to there, but I don't think we're going to add that. We'll see. We're going to have to run a test before we do anything. Okay, well, now that I'm partially deaf from the alarm, the alarm's definitely working. I'm documenting this, that the green and blue are reversed for this controller, so I left that. The phase wires are blue to blue, yellow to yellow, and green to green. Same with the hulls. And when we turned it on, a quick test here. Power it up. Oh, sorry, I had to plug the battery in. There we go. That works. Shut it off. Give me a minute. The alarm works. And there you go. So the wiring is basically done here. I'll tighten these up with sockets. And we're basically done with the controller. And now we're going to add the battery. Oh, one thing I want to note, sorry, I had to remove the power plug. This thing was the cheapest piece of junk ever. This would have left you dead on the road. When I went to do the first test wasn't recording. As soon as I went to test it, I noticed that it wasn't working. So I'm looking, the red wire, they weren't even soldered in. They basically, you could just lift them right out of there. So that would have left you dead on the road. Like literally every wire that was in this plug, you can just pull out, pull, without force. The only thing that was holding it in is the crimping. So that was pretty bad. So it's history. I took it out. Let's see, look, it's popping out. So it's basically hardwired right to the bike. You're never going to have a problem with that. So we're good here. Let's get on to the next. Okay, there's one thing I wanted to post. Your old controller had what you would call regenerative braking, where, remember you said you would let off on the throttle and then it would brake. Okay, they call it brake high level. Okay, but on this one, how it works is it doesn't work like that. It doesn't have regenerative. What it has is it has high brake, but how it works is there's a switch on each one of the brake levers. So if you're flying along and you have to panic stop, most people forget to let off on the throttle, so you're fighting with the throttle as you're braking. What this does is this extra purple wire that was on the throttle plug is for your high level brake, and what it does is as soon as you pull the brake in, it cuts the motor. But there's not going to be a regenerative, and you pay a lot more than 20 bucks for a regenerative controller. So just so you know, it's not going to be the same, but every function on this controller does work. The only thing that's left is self-study, this one for programming, and low-level brake, and your 3-speed, which I'm going to give you a 3-speed switch will dangle down here, and you can just reach underneath and flick it whichever way you want. So if you want to get go long distance, you can flick it to for lower speeds. So I wanted to share that so you know it's going to be different. Just wanted to quickly show you that it's working before I throw the fairings back on. I disconnected the alarm because I got tired of hearing it. So anyway, I'll show you that it's working. Throttle as soon as you hit the brake. There you go. Well, that's it for today, guys. Some of the things left to do is the battery and the console, which will be the hardest part because we'll have to cut a piece of plastic out to get the LCD in, which I have been testing here. Works pretty good. So he's going to be going digital. So we'll make a part 3 and we'll go from there. Later.